you lovely flossy friends who live in my phone. Welcome to Flosstube number 13. Today is Saturday, the 1st of November. November already. It's about 8 o'clock at night. I am making the most of a little window of opportunity when I'm home alone. Ailey's at work. Bruce is out having a catch up with some old friends he's known since he was a teenager. So they're off doing boy things. I had no interest whatsoever in joining them. So I am here enjoying the peace and quiet, and I've kind of got some stuff organised, and I thought I would just grab the chance while I could. So welcome. That's the most important thing. Welcome. How are you all doing? I hope you're well. I hope life has been kind. I hope you've had lots of stitchy time and lots of fun times and feeling good about life and being made to feel good about yourself too. Welcome if this is your first time here. I hope you enjoy yourself. I'm delighted to have you here. And if you're finding your way back to me after maybe seeing me a couple of times before, or perhaps even being with me from the start way back in April, welcome back. It's lovely to have you here. I hope you know by now how much you returning to spend time with me means to me. You flossy friends in my phone are just such an important and special part of my life, and I'm very, very grateful for you. So welcome back. I hope I have something here to make everybody a little bit happy. If I do, I would be very, very grateful if you would hit the like button, leave me a comment. I love hearing what you've been up to, what you think about things I'm stitching on, all those kind of things. And if you're feeling really generous, make like the Disco Diva, Anita Ward, and ring my bell. So yeah, shall we move on? Before I do, I have found a new way of videoing, but I have also found a new problem. Elliott and I finally got time to sit and play with her fancy little doody vlogging camera, and we got it paired up with my iPad so that I could see what I was doing. So if I was holding things up, they were in the right place and all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. She taught me how to use it, all as well. The theory being that it was recorded on an SD card, which I could pop in my laptop, edit and upload as an MP4 with hopefully less issues uploading. 73 hours the last one took. And also because I can edit, because at the moment I can't get videos even off my phone into any editing suite. It won't even go to the cloud, so I've kind of been a bit stuck. So fabulous, we've got a solution. Popped it into CapCut. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, except there's a problem with my laptop. It's obviously not whizzy enough, or has the right graphic card, I think was the problem, and the audio and the video won't sync. She did say that I could use her laptop to edit it, and said I could use that camera tonight, but I thought I will just do this old school, the way I've been doing for the last few months for now, in the hope that by the next time we've resolved that issue. I have a horrible and expensive feeling it's going to involve a new laptop, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. Yeah, and we were meant to be having fibre broadband put in next week, whoop whoop, except we were lulled into a false sense of security to sign the contract because they're not actually coming until Christmas. We are another 2 months away, rather than a week, which is somewhat frustrating, but we have no control over it. But hopefully those two changes will make life much easier for me, and I might even be able to do a slightly professional floss tube. I'd say slightly because it's me, there's nothing professional about me. But anyway, I have havered on for far too long. That's just what, about 4.5 minutes in, and we're here for the stitching. So let's talk about the stitching. So October recap for you. I was here halfway through the month showing you what I'd been working on earlier in the month. I'm not going to bore you showing you all those things again. I'm going to concentrate on what I've worked on in the second half of the month. But as a whole, in October, I thought I hadn't done anywhere near as much stitching as I wanted to. And I haven't, but I have managed to touch 23 pieces. 23 different projects. And of that, 16 of them were new starts. And I have 5 starts and fully finished objects and 5 starts and finishes, with 13 carrying forward as whips, which is possibly a little bit more than I would like, but as I said, I would have liked to have got more stitching done than I have. There's been a variety of reasons for that, for which I won't bore you, but at the same time, I've worked on 23 pieces in a month. That's not bad. I have 16 to show you today. Don't worry, you're not going to have to sit through all of the 23. 16 to show you today, most of which you won't have seen. So let's crack on. Let me get my list, because you know me, I need a list to work from because I get too forgetful otherwise. So let's start with fully finished objects. And I'm going to show you this one. As always, I'm going to say, you know, you expect this every month now. This is my Crocette GoGo La Finestra del Tempo monthly piece. This is in November. I've been saying that every month, and I'm only going to get to say it one more month because we've only got one to go, and that'll be all 12 of them done. And I'll be sad to say goodbye to them. But this one's November. It's got a trash panda on it. If you've been here before, you know I've got a thing about trash pandas. I love a raccoon. So here we go. We've got the trash panda. We've got a basket of leaves down here. Somebody's been raking them up. We've got a couple of robins. And rain. It's November. That seems fair enough. We can't complain too much about that. So yeah, that's this one. I have to admit, I completely forgot to take a photo of this today to put up as my month marker on Instagram. If you haven't found my Instagram, I go by the same name there, really straightforward. And this has been going up for the last few months as my month marker. And I forgot today, so I will have to do that. I'll wait till tomorrow when I've got daylight to do that. So that is finish number 1. I will say that is stitched on 28 count light taupe, so I got even weave. Most of them have been on this. Some of them I've done on a grey, but most have been on this one. So my second fully finished object, numbers 2 and 3 actually, were finishes last month that I never got around to fully finishing. So I've done that now. And this is the first one here. I've got my ring light on today because obviously I've got no natural light. So I shall try and avoid reflections. And this was a little freebie from Shannon Christine. It's just a little autumn owl. I stitched this up in some leftover 14 count Rustico Ada on with random floss. He's very pretty, or she's very pretty. I think she's a she. She's surrounded by flowers and leaves. She's gorgeous. So I have just popped this in a very simple little pumpkin frame. It's maybe not, it's an autumn stitch, but it's not a pumpkin stitch, but it's absolutely the right time of the year and the right colours, and I just thought it fit in there lovely. The frame is one we got from TK Maxx. I wish I'd got another one so I could have done a Halloween pumpkin in there as well, but if wishes were kisses and all that kind of thing. So that's number 2. Number 3, again, you saw this as a finish, but not an FFO. And this is it here. This is a kind of adapted version of the Give Thanks pumpkins from Primrose Cottage. In the original chart, this pumpkin is somewhere completely different, as are these little crows. But I just shifted them around to suit me. It's stitched on 14 count perforated paper, which was originally white, and I have ink dyed it just to take the colour down a little bit so that it kind of blends more into the background. And I have stitched it in whatever fancy flosses I have had lying around after stitching on other autumn themed projects. I can't remember where I got this pumpkin from. It came like this with a little raffia bow on it already. I would have liked it if this had been slightly bigger, or rather the pumpkin had been slightly smaller, because this is on 14 count already, so that the pumpkins took up a little bit more space on the wood. But at the same time, I'm delighted by it. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I'm delighted with my 2 little blackbirds here. And I'm really looking forward to putting that out in my autumn displays. It'll be next year now. So number 3. Number 4, you saw I had started on, and that's this. This is the Mill Hill Glowing Pumpkin from the Painted Pumpkin ornament set. Now, considering how bright the light is, it's really not picking up just how sparkly and shimmery and iridescent that is. The beads that go around the outside, you can just kind of catch a glimpse of them there, a black iridescent, and they are just beautiful. This really, really sparkles in real life. And then the centre of the little flowers has got bigger beads, and there's a gold heart charm on there. So I've just finished it with black cardboard on the back, made a loop out of those same, I don't think you'll be able to see them, iridescent beads there. It was a labour of love. Stitching black on black perforated paper was not the most fun experience. And as much as I love these Mill Hills, I love how they look, they're gorgeous, they seem really, really time consuming to stitch. And part of me, whilst I'm enjoying doing them, also grudges the time spending on them for something so small, when that time I could be cracking on with lots and lots of other stitching. So I would imagine that I will put this away, forget about doing any Mill Hill kits for a few months, and then forget how frustrating and slow I find them and think, oh, I'm going to do another one. But not right now, that's for sure. So that's my 4th FFO, and my 5th one I'm really pleased with. You haven't seen this before. It's a start and finish as well. And I'm really happy with this one. I struggled trying to find something to fit in this frame. I found a frame that I wanted to use, and I struggled to find something to fit in it. So I had to adapt. And this is what I have come up with. Again, I'll try and get it so there's no glare for you there. So that is my skull. There we go. Is that better? Yeah, that's slightly better. So this is a frame that Ailey and I found in, again, in TK Maxx. I got it at the same time I got the pumpkin. And I just loved it. And I knew I wanted something skeletal in it. And there's a little skeleton on the top there. You can see him. So I knew I wanted something skeletal in it. And everything I was finding was either too small and would be lost in the middle, or too large. And because it's quite a long, thin oval, it's quite shaped. It was a struggle to find something that would fit. But I found something that didn't fit, but could be made to fit. And I'll show you what that is. That was this chart from the Stitch Crypt, and it's called Serpent Sentinel. So as you can see, I have ignored the border completely, and I have recharted the skull to just get rid of that, albeit fabulous snake. I love it. But if I'd left the snake on it, it wouldn't have fitted. It would just have been too narrow across this bit here. Because it's fabulous, it's a brilliant design, but it just wasn't going to work in the frame. So I decided I would rechart it. I've stitched it on 14 count black Ada, and I've used the called for colours, and I have filled in the black. Even though it's stitched in black, I have filled in the black, so it's really dense. So yeah, called for colours. I have followed the chart, but then obviously have had to make it up in places, and I thought that'll be quite straightforward. That'll be easy. That's not going to be too much of an ask. Yeah, it was because the colours are quite similar, and I had all this kind of bit here around the jaws where there's that gap that you would see, and also a lot of the top of the skull was covered, so it was kind of like, how would it be graded, how would it be shaded to get a realistic looking skull. So I kind of made it up as I went along. I didn't chart it, I just played, and I wasn't sure that the teeth were going to work, that they that they would look stripy, for want of a better way of putting it. But actually I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. I'm kind of delighted. I haven't given him a name yet. So any names, I suppose I could be quite boring and go for Skeletor from, you know, He-Man. But yeah, any suggestions for naming my little skeleton would be very much appreciated. So those are my 5 fully finished objects. So let me just have a move around. I also have 5 finished objects that have not been fully finished yet. The first one of those, and I haven't put these on boards because they're only little, is this one, The Fall on the Farm. This is the 4th one. I don't know if you remember from last month I did number, was it 7? Which was the old schoolhouse, old farmhouse. But this one is called Pick Your Own. And I boobed last month, and I've kind of done it again this month. Each of these charts comes with a little kind of quote or poem on it. And I forgot to read it out earlier this month. And I haven't got the chart in front of me to do it now. So I'm very sorry. But I'm sure it was a little, I think it was a poem, probably about picking apples. So this is it. Little girl there underneath the tree has just picked her apple. Elliott picked this one just by number. I just said, you know, pick a number from 1 to 9. There's 9 in the set. And she picked 4, which happened to be this one, which was perfect for her because she loves a red truck. And I had been tempted to swap it out for one of the ones with pumpkins, because even though I've got projects there with lots of pumpkins on them for Laura Stitching by the Shores pumpkin birthday sale, which we've celebrated all the way through October. Laura celebrates it all month. Her birthday is the 23rd, but all month is a pumpkin stitching frenzy. So I've had lots of pumpkins for that, and I was tempted to change it for one that had pumpkins, because obviously this one has no pumpkins, it just has apples. But knowing what Ailey's like for a red pickup, I couldn't, and I love this one. I'm delighted. So I will be stitching all 9 of those over the next few months. This one was quite a quick one. Some of the others I think will be more involved, a lot more starting and stopping. So I'm not going to be fully finishing them even. Teeth, until they're all done, and then I'll do them all in one go as a set. So the next 4 items I have got to show you, they're actually freebies I got from the Crocette GoGo website. They have fabulous freebies. If you hadn't tootled over there, do so. They have some really, really great freebies. I showed one in my mid-month video that was an autumn house I was stitching. My intention is to do the spring, summer, autumn, winter and Christmas houses. There's a lot more stitching in them than I had realised, and I haven't got back to that one, and I'm not sure when I will now. But yeah, they were freebies, and these were 4 Halloween freebies that I got. I have changed 2 of them around. One of them I've stitched as was, and one of them, the jury's still out. I had, you'd seen earlier in the month, I had a finish of Jardin Privé Halloween with a skeleton reclining on top of the word. In fact, I've got it here, you'll see it in a little while. On a 32 count even weave from Coffee Craft Fabrics, an unnamed piece. And I had another kind of long thin piece that you will see soon. From the same cut of fabric. So this was just leftovers, and I can't abide a bit of leftover fabric without putting something on it. So that's what I did, and these will eventually be made into pillow finishes. I've got a kind of spooky tier tray black cobweb type thing that they will go on, and I've still got ones to make into cushions from halfway to Halloween back in May that I haven't done yet. I had thought about doing them for the Big Girl Pants challenge from Too Tall Stitchers, pulling up my big girl pants and getting out the sewing machine. I don't trust it. I need to pull my big girl pants up because I had lots of finishes. I've got like the autumn rose, and that I had every intention of finishing. There's a Halloween bell pull In the end, I looked at my sewing machine and I thought, I don't want to put you anywhere near anything I have stitched on until such times as you're over your toddler temper tantrums, and I can trust you. So that hasn't happened yet. You can see just how frustrating it's being for tension. 1 minute it'll stitch along quite happily, and the next minute that'll happen. Fabric hasn't changed, nothing has changed. It's just having a hissy fit. It's having a hormone moment. But anyway, this is one of them. This is just a little part of a slightly bigger chart that I thought, it's only a tooty tiny bit of fabric. I will just do a little bit of it and it'll make a really tiny little cushion. But I just thought it was so cute. The cat and the pumpkins. Quite a malevolent looking spider. Not so keen on that. And I've extended the spider's thread so that when I do make it into a cushion, it will just disappear into the seam. So it'll go all the way up. So that is the first freebie. This one I've changed quite a lot. In the original, again, it's a bigger chart, and the ghost isn't wearing a hat. The hat's somewhere completely separate. There isn't a spider there. I popped a couple of stars in because, again, I didn't want to do the whole thing. The whole one didn't appeal to me, but I thought that element was cute. So I just flipped the hat, chucked it on the ghost. Wish I'd put it on a slightly different jaunty angle. When I look at it now, it could have done with coming down this way slightly. But it's a cute little one. And like I say, I just popped the spider in to fill that space. I had thought about doing another cat, but the cat was just a bit too big. So yeah, that's that one. So those two were slightly amended from the original charts. This one follows it. And it's quite similar to that Jardin Privé in that it's the big long Halloween word that's been decorated. And these are all stitched with just random Halloweeny coloured DMCs. Just ones that I had sitting, grabbed them, and they've all been stitched with them. So this one's going to make a nice long thin cushion finish for that. I just think it's so cute. I love the stripy stockings with those witches' boots. They're so cute. And it's nice to see an owl on them as well. That's the first of the Halloween owls I've seen, I think. And this was the fourth one in the set. And this is the one I really wanted to stitch, but when I started, there's a lot of stitching in this. Now, this is actually part of a much bigger design. I should have printed it out. It's got happy and Halloween, and then it's got lots of other elements in it. And it was the design that I liked most out of the four. I'm just realising I haven't ironed anything today. I'm terribly sorry. We'll just have to slum it. I reminded myself to do it and then forgot that I reminded myself to do it. Such as Menno Brain and Fibro Frog. So yeah, this is a witch's hat, which doesn't look hugely like a witch's hat at the moment, and it kind of, the original comes all the way further along. And I've put in the outline of the black and some of the fill of the other colours, because I thought this will be a nice handy one just for grabbing to fill any time that I don't have a chart with me or don't have access to my iPad. This is going to be a really easy. Maybe even will I stitch Halloween at the Jingle Ball, where, you know, I don't need to think about what I'm stitching, it's just fill. So this, the plan was to make the whole, and it would take up most of this fabric. But now I'm thinking I might actually quite like to leave the hat on its own and finish it differently. I'm going to crack on with the hat and see how I get on, but that is a possible. Like I say, I might stitch on that at the Jingle Ball. I might leave it till halfway to Halloween. There's a lot of stitches still to go in it, but it's not hard stitching. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see with that one. So those are starts and finishes. Apart from that last one's not finished, but I wanted to show you it with the set because it's part of that set. So let me just move that out of the way. So I have got 4 new starts for you as well. Now, where am I? I've got myself in the wrong order here. So yes, this is one of them. This is something very different from me. Wait a minute, that's because those two are whips. So this is an embroidery kit that I got. It's not a kit as such. This one was just the printed fabric and instructions. You can get it as a full kit as well, and you can even get a kit that's got a hoop in it, which I'm almost wishing I had now, because I thought I had plenty of hoops that would fit, but they're actually a little bit big. So I'm going to have to buy more hoops anyway. But I think I bought 5 or 6 of these different embroidery kits from Sew Bootiful. I just got the printed fabric because I've got plenty of floss kicking around. I really don't need any more floss coming into the house. Well, that's a lie. I need lots and lots more floss coming into the house, but not to do these. So yeah, very, very different from me. So it's printed and you just go over the branches with backstitch and stem stitch, and then satin stitch those bats, and then all those berries are French knots, boohiss. I have some matte orange beads that will be going on instead, but this won't be being stitched on anytime soon. Satin stitch is not my friend, and just free embroidery is not my friend, and I find it's easier to find your hole doing cross stitch than a printed fabric, because the needle kind of will move either side of the thread, and because it's printed, you can sometimes see the white of the underside of the fabric, because it's printed on white. So I'm not saying I'm very good at it, but I've had fun doing that. I've not achieved a huge amount, but I have achieved. I've done what? I would say a good quarter of the wreath. I've got a lot to do on the spider's web. That's going to take a while. That's a whipped back stitch. But with these, you can kind of be quite flexible about the length of your stitches, but this is going to have to be a lot more regimented because it's whipped. And satin stitch boohiss. I'm not good at satin stitch. So that's something to practice, and I've got plenty of opportunity to practice with this. I've done 2 bats and there's 4 to go, so plenty of time. But it's been fun. It wasn't an expensive kit. Something different. That's change is as good as a rest and all that kind of thing, isn't it? I'll put that there. So my next start was one I spoke about earlier, and this, bless it, it really should have been ironed, but it's this one. It's Pumpkin Party by Lola Crow. This was the Lola Crow exclusive from the Harvest Moon Hangout that I was desperate to get my grubby little paws on. I just love this. Again, we've got a trash panda, he's got his pumpkin, his jack-o'-lantern, there's a squirrel, there's mice, there's a mole. It's just heaven. I love it. So I've started this. I'm not doing any of the outside. I haven't decided whether I'll stitch the circle or if I'll just leave it. At the moment, I'm leaning towards leaving it and just leaving it as a standalone scene without anything around it. But we'll see. But it's so cute. It's adorable. So this, I started on the 23rd for Laura's birthday. And this is where I'm at. So I've kind of done most of the pumpkins over at this side. I've still got, there's 3 pumpkins here with a squirrel sitting on top. And then there's loads and loads of candy corn down here and all the ground. So there's still a lot of stitching to go on this, and there's crows to go in the sky as well. So I'm terribly sorry it's creased looking. This is stitched on 28 count fabric flare mushroom, which I'm using the Cold for DMCs, and this colour works really nicely with the colours that are in the ground. It just sits quite nicely on that fabric. So I suppose in theory I should put it away until halfway to Halloween in May. see. Not halfway to, well, I suppose you're halfway to Halloween or Raccoon June. Yeah, I do like a bit of Raccoon June. I've got some other raccoon stitches to work on as well. So that could be, it might be a May and June type stitch. Excuse me. The next one is I've got is the other long and thin on that purple fabric that I was talking about. And this is it here. The drawn thread, another new start. I've been really excited to stitch this. I got it from Chris at the Nimble Thimble. She is awesome at kitting up these charts with the floss that you need, because these are all, the cold folders are silks, and this has got NPIs and dinky dyes, and obviously buying all those skeins of silks would be quite an expensive endeavour. So Chris kits it up for you. She just gives you what you need, a little bit extra, so you don't have to go to the expense of full skeins for, you know, you don't need the whole length of it. So I've been really, really excited to start this. I've soaked out the fabric. It came, I'm trying to think, did this one come with linen or not? I can't remember. I think it came with the linen, but I wanted that purple, and that's what I've done. And I have followed the instructions. I read them very carefully because there's some fancy stitches in it as well. And it says very, very clearly, 32 count fabric, 1/2, which is this. Now, I confess, this has been an absolute joy to stitch. I have loved it. Those silks are just beautiful to work with. But it's really pale. I started doing that pumpkin, the big one here, the jack-o'-lantern, and I was like, I'm not sure. So I kept going back and checking, and it definitely says 1/2 on 32. And I thought, do I try 2/2? But because it's a kit, I have no idea if there's going to be enough floss to do 2/2, because Chris has kitted it according to the instructions on the chart. There might not be enough. So I was a bit too scared to go back and do it in 2/2. So I've left it in 1/2. So it's very much got a kind of prim feel to it, but it just doesn't jump out at all compared to the original, where those colours look really, really dense and vibrant. You know, even the black really pops. It's really dense and you know, shouts at you from the fabric. And I know it's on a different coloured fabric, but I don't think that would make any difference. That looks to me like it's been stitched in 2/2. It doesn't look anything like it. But the instructions definitely say 1/2. And like I say, I've been too nervous. I think I would have had enough floss now that I've stitched some more of it. But now that I've stitched some more of it, I have got enough to go back and frog it and do it in 2/2. So, I mean, I love this. It's got much more of a prim feel than anything I've stitched before. It won't be able to go up next to the other things, because I took out here the other, the Jardin Privé one I was telling you about. Let's see if I can do it that way with that. Yeah. And you can see the difference. Now, I know this is stitched in DMCs, but black is black, and the purple is very, very similar, and the green is very similar. The orange is completely different, granted. But this just jumps out of the fabric, and the top one doesn't. So they are not going to sit nicely next to each other. So yeah, I love it. It's really, really pretty. It is. I mean, it's a joy to stitch with those silks. They are gorgeous. But I'm just really disappointed that it doesn't look like the photo on the front, that it's not what I was expecting. But I'm over halfway through, and thoroughly enjoying it. I think I'd thought it was going to have the same kind of impact as that, but that's the difference between one strand or two. And the last of my new starts was last night. I have been waiting to do this one for ages, and I have another five in the set that I want to do, which is going to take me years and years and years because there's a substantial amount of stitching in them. And that's this one, the Joan Elliott All Hallows Eve sampler. I love her monochrome designs. There's a lot of alphabets in them, and you know, nobody needs that many alphabets in their life, and I had thought about recharging them and taking the alphabets out, but there's lots and lots of lovely little twiddly details around those alphabets that, I mean, like there's little mice in the corner here. They're so sweet. There's little kind of like faces in the letters, and in the numbers here we've got bats hanging, we've got skeletons, we've got spiders, all sorts of wonderful things. Yes, I could have taken them out, but I'll just know my ABCs really, really well. So this is the first one of these that I have started. Like I say, I've got another, maybe, I think it's 5 that I would like to start over the next few months. I'm loving monochrome stitching, and I'm thinking I would like to maybe work on one of these every week and just rotate them around. Maybe have a monochrome Monday or something like that. I don't know. So a lot of stitching. This is how far I got, and I think this is about 470 stitches. It's 1.91%, and this is it here. I did put in another 123 stitches originally in sulky, but I didn't like the sulky. It wasn't a dense enough coverage, so that came out, and I've gone to the DMC. I would have had to add DMC in anyway, because there's bits that have to be done in one strand DMC, kind of like quite fine tendrils and things, and the spider's web and stuff, which would have worked okay with the sulky. The blacks are the same, because I've got a cone of sulky that I bought purely, you know, to do this, but it wasn't dense enough. This is a 32 count fabric. It was Storminess from Pole Stitches, but I put on, I kind of sponged bits of a really pale purple and a pale green. It's not really picking up very well. You're getting little bits off it, just to add a kind of little bit more dimension to it, because like I say, it was a grey and white mottled, so I just wanted a little bit of purple and green because there's orange stitching as well, so I thought those colours would all work. You're getting little bits, but not much. But very diluted Rit dye I used. I'm normally a bit too heavy-handed with Rit dye, and my colours come out quite intense, but I was determined this time, and I just kind of dribbled it and squished it with bits of kitchen roll, which wasn't a fun thing to do because the water is boiling, and it's like I'll just be very careful. So yeah, so this is a much bigger piece of fabric, and it will go a fair ways down. So yeah, it's not going to be ready for next Halloween, let's put it that way, unless I work on this a lot, and I have far too many other projects to be focusing just on this just now. But like I say, I've got a winter solstice one, there's a spring equinox, there's a Christmas one, there's a mermaid one. Kat is stitching that from Catkin and Lily. She's stitching that at the moment, and it's just looking fabulous. And what was the other one? Oh, there's like a year that's got all different months with little scenes. So these are kind of my, will this keep me going to stop me starting a long dog? But will this scratch that itch for now? I'm hoping it does, because I absolutely don't have any. I mean, I've got so many stitches on the go already, and an obscene amount of starts planned, purely on the theory that if it's started, it's closer to a finish than if it's not started. So yeah, that was my start last night, my Halloween start. If you've been here before, you know that I've started doing where I'll stitch Halloween on the last day of the month. And I'll stitch Christmas on the 25th of the month. I've got that to show you. I thought because Halloween is obviously the last day of the month, I would have a Halloween new start and do one that I had been itching to start. So that's that one. So that just leaves me with 2 whips to show you. The Christmas one I was just talking about. Great White Christmas, another monochrome. This is on 32 counts, fibre on a whim, sapphire with white sulky. This is a Boomerang Stitches chart, and I just love it. So that is the chart we are looking at. Obviously I'm doing mine a completely different way. I'm doing white on blue rather than, well, here it's grey on white, but I'm doing kind of like a negative version, I suppose. And this is where I'm at now. This has got a lot of stitches in it, and I think about 500, just over 500 stitches, which was kind of from the R here, just on this bottom bit, the solid white, where the letters are in relief, just that little bit. And that was a lot of stitching. I spent several hours stitching that, thoroughly enjoying myself. So again, this isn't going to be ready by next Christmas, but I very, very much look forward to the day that it is ready, because I love it. And the last one I was working on, a whip you've seen before, is my Quebec Seasons. These 4 little vignettes. I started it late September, once we swapped from summer into autumn. So this is the summer one. I finished, in fact I started and finished this. I started it in August, and I think I managed to make myself wait until September to finish it, because I just love it so much. These are such a joy to stitch on. And then earlier in October I had done the sky, so I went in and I've put in some of the greenery, some trees and some hills. So all that you're seeing in white in this space is still waiting to be stitched. I've got until the 21st of December to do that, and it really is a case of trying to eke it out to make it last, because I would quite happily stitch all in one go, because I just love it so much. I really, really enjoy this stitch. The fabric's kind of distorting. It's a 28 count even weave, just a standard one, but it just, I'm not convinced by it. I'm not convinced. I've got yards of this stuff. I got it in a sale and I'm not convinced by it. But the stitch itself is lovely. Stretching it is potentially going to be a problem. So that's all my stitching. That's my 16 pieces of stitching to show you. Yeah, so what else have we got? Plans. November is going to be Scottish month. I'm sure some of you are aware that 30th of November is the day we celebrate our patron saint, St Andrew. And I had a start, which I actually started earlier today, that I've been waiting to start since I think about something like the 8th, the 10th of July, towards the start of July. As soon as this chart was released, I need to stitch that. And Ellie from Stitch and Bee, lovely, lovely Ellie, we were chatting about it because it's right up both our streets. So we're like, well, we stitch it together. And I had suggested, well, we do it for St Andrew's Day. We maybe won't have to last until the 30th of November before we start, but November, which worked for her because it's an owl forest chart and she wanted to get the owl forest threads. So they were going to take a long time to arrive. So that worked out perfect. So that was going to be November. And then I thought, I've got another couple of charts that, I've got one chart and a kit that I've got thistles on them. November is going to be Scottish month. And I have another stitch that I started last, well, it's been very end of November, started December, because it was a rush throw together kit I made myself for when we were going over to see Elliott in Florida. So I was going to stitch on the flight. So I threw some floss together and some fabric that I dyed myself that I didn't like. And I thought it was going to be a lovely stitch, and it's actually a really frustrating, and I'm not loving stitching it. So I've given myself this month to decide whether it's going to be UFO'd, whether it's going to be started again from scratch on something different, which I have to say does not fill me with a happy joy. It looks like it should be an easy stitch, but the opportunity for counting mistakes is just, I swear the squares move. But yeah, so I'll think about that. So that's 3, potentially 4 thistle-y projects I've got. So November is going to be Scottish month. It's going to be tentative tiptoeing around in the general direction of Christmas month, possibly, if the mood so takes me. I'm not sure. I very much these days, I'm like, I'm going to stitch what I feel like it. I make plans, but plans can change, they're fluid. So I do have a secret stitch that I did work on this month, but only a little bit. I really need to crack on with that. Time is rushing past and I've still got an awful lot of work to do on it. And obviously I can't show you here because it's a secret stitch. I shouldn't really be talking about it. Don't tell anybody. Our secret, don't tell anybody. So yeah, so I need to be doing some of that because it has to be framed. So while it's a few months before it needs to be framed, I need to have it finished and laced and ready to go to the framer. That's going to hurt. And then give them plenty of time as well. So I started it maybe March, April time, thinking I've got all the time in the world. I'll just do all these other things. I'll just play with nice new projects. And then I need to work out how many weeks I've got. And then, moment. So I do need to do some of that in November, but I'm not going to be able to share that with you, unfortunately. It probably would be safe to, but I'm not taking the risk. So yes, I've got secret stitching, I've got Scottish stitching, I've got my sals to work on. I haven't shown you them, I worked on them all earlier in the month. I've got the Emerald City sal, I've got the Catkin and Lily anything stitchy one. I'm doing the Serenity-ish prayer, and of course I've got Gathering Acorns. Gathering Acorns is more of a start along than a stitch along. There's no time. In fact, Tommy has finished hers. Tommy Crates. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Really wonderful colours. I love her colours. And what she has done with the tail, because if you've been here before, you know it's the tail that's stressing me. I don't know what to do about the tail because I don't like how it's charted. What she has done with it is just chef's kiss. Love it, love it, love it. So if you get a chance, pop on over and see our lovely Tommy and her fabulous squirrel in Gathering Acorns. So as much as it doesn't have a deadline or anything, I am committed to work on it every month to get through it. I did a little bit on it since you've seen it last, just a little bit of fill. I really need to set some time aside to sit and have a look at the tail and pull out some flosses and make some decisions, because what I've got to do on the squirrel itself, it's all filling from here on in on the body of the squirrel, which obviously I want to get that done. But that's something, again, Jingle Ball or something like that, I can crack on and stitch that, you know, when I'm watching meet and greets or anything like that. So those 3 sals, and then the Bumblebee Noon that I started today with the thistles, the wreath with the thistles and bumblebees. That's an Owl Forest chart, and that Ellie kind of really ran with it, and we've now got a big stitch along going, which is the Owl Around the World sal. I'll put the hashtag down below, and there's lots and lots of people joining it. She and I are both stitching the Bumblebee Noon on very different fabrics. I would have been tempted to use the same kind of fabric as Ellie is planning on using, but that didn't seem fair on Ellie because hers is for a very specific reason. So I've gone in a different direction, and I had 2 directions I was going to take it in, and I had to make a decision, and Ellie's like, that one. So that's what we've done. It was either a really pale fabric or a really dark fabric. You'll see that next month. And then we've got a really active chat group on the go for that. Really friendly. Lots of chatting going on. And my friend Kerry is from Colourfully Cross Stitch. She's doing the hummingbird one, and that's one that I had the chart. I've got lots of L1st charts, and I was like, oh, I just love that chart. I love the colours. And every time I know lots of people who are stitching the boomerang threads. Is it the ruby throated hummingbird? I can't remember if that's the right name, but there's a few people stitching it, and it's just fabulous. It's so bright and it's just yummy. It's lovely. And every time I look at that, I think of it because it's got the same kind of bright colours and cheerful kind of nature to it. So Kerry's like, you could easily do another one. And I'm like, no, I haven't got the capacity, haven't got the bandwidth, no. She'd planted that seed. And I hummed and hawed, and a few hours I'm like, no, you can't do it. And then I found myself trying to pull out floss to see if I could kit it. And I kind of can. It's not anywhere near the called for colours. I'm just making it up as I go along with colours. And that's what I did with Bumblebee Noon as well. It was just my own colours. So I've got that one as well. So that's now 2 pieces for the Owl Around the World Sal, which again, there's no deadline, there's no time. It's just people stitching along with each other. But if I'm doing it, I will commit to stitching on that every month. It's not like some of my whips that I'll put away for a few weeks, a few months or whatever. I'm taking part in a sale. I will commit to putting some stitches in every month on all 5 of those projects. So yeah, so that's November. So we've still got berry razzlers. I've got a fabulous Scottish word for you for today. Really happy with this one. I've got lots to tell you about it. It's awesome. Very happy with it. So we'll get to that. But the only other blethers I was going to have a chat with you about, because as you know, I've got the breaking strain of a Kit Kat when it comes to new charts and new starts. So if you've been here for any amount of time, you'll know that I am a wannabe quilter who's just not letting herself fall down another rabbit hole. I have neither the time, space or bank balance to start another hobby. I can't go down another rabbit hole. No, it cannot happen. But that doesn't stop me drooling over people's quilting. And just in the last couple of weeks, I've been watching, there's Carrie from Red Velvet Quilts. She's shown a whole load of hers. Just fabulous Halloween. Rachel from Five Oaks Farm. She's a recently new floss tuber who cross stitches and quilts. Again, fabulous. And Bonnie and Madison, Unfinished Stitches. They quilt and they took their vlog to a quilt show. Drool. So I am still got that itch. And I was thinking, I have some quilty charts. I will find my quilty charts. So that's what I did. And they're Stony Creek. And I'm just going to show you them. I have no idea when I'm going to get around to stitching them. But I just thought, it's the quilty itch. So we have got Hope. And we have got Cherish. I'll try and not have a glare. And we have got Believe. Home Sweet Home. Excuse me. Simplify. I was thinking Simplicity, but Simplify. I can't read back to front. It's on my screen backwards. Simplify. And this last one I'm going to check is Renew. And they're just beautiful. And I got these as a set with a vision. We've got a TV mounted on the wall in the bedroom. Very naughty, I know. But I can't separate Bruce from his TV. And my plan had been to have these in the space between, because it's a big TV, because you know what men are like with TVs. The space between there and the ceiling, I would run these along. So I thought, oh, maybe I have to stitch those sooner rather than later. But then I accidentally stumbled across some more Stony Creek. Now I like Stony Creek. I quite like the that old-fashioned backstitch look. So I found these. It's a set of 4 Stony Creek seasonal quilts. So we have spring, and I had to buy these straight away. I have no idea when I'm going to stitch them, but we have spring, we have summer, we've got lots of watermelons and kites and all sorts of yummies. And they've all got a quilt hanging over the washing line outside the house. We've got autumn, and we've got winter, which has got lots and lots and lots of colour, log cabin style, with a snowman with his bright coloured scarf. And I just fell head over heels in love with those. So I thought I would share them with you. If you've been here before, you know I'm not one really for sharing stash for haul. That's not something I tend to share. But I just... So where Joan Elliott is hopefully scratching my long dog itch, I'm hoping that eventually they will scratch my quilty itch. So that was the only other blethers I had to tell you. So who has razzled my berries? Now, I am struggling to get time to watch Flosstube. I'm so desperately behind, and it's starting to get to the stage where it's something that's stressing me. So I'm maybe going to have to rethink how I approach this. But I have managed to get some watched, so I've got some people I just want to share here. And I'm going to do so quickly so that I'm not taking up loads of your time, because we need to get to that really awesome Scottish word. So the first one I want to give a huge shout out to is Samantha, the Hygge Stitcher. She's had her Emerald City framed, and it's absolutely fabulous. A really different coloured mount than most of us would go for, possibly. But it really, really works. It looks sensational. And she's absolutely delighted with it. And I'm absolutely delighted for her, because it's just gorgeous. And Samantha is very much my inspiration for how I'm stitching my Emerald City. With lots of bling, basically. If we can beat it, we'll beat it. So, I mean, I'm up to date with part 3. I've made a tentative start on part 4, which I've got, I think, till a week Monday, I think it is, to finish, which I'll get done. But I could do with trying to get a little bit ahead of it, because I'm not stitching any of the beads as I go. They'll all go on after the main stitching is done, because I don't want them getting knocked or damaged or anything. So I'm going to need extra time at the end just to do that. It's going to be really, really time consuming. So I could really do with trying to get ahead on that one. And seeing Samantha's fabulous finish has, yeah, it's kind of renewed my oomph for that one. So that was the first one. The second account, I hadn't come across before, and I kind of wish I had. I say that several times. There's so many fabulous people out there. And this is one that I was introduced to by Heather, who is, you know, a pal I've made here on Flosstube. She always comments. She's so supportive and encouraging. She's just a gem. And she had messaged me saying that Melanie and Michael from Uplift Stitches were going to be stitching Pumpkin Party, as was she, and they were going to be starting it again for Laura's birthday. Laura Stitching by the Shore for her pumpkin birthday sale. And I hadn't seen their channel, so I went tootling off. And it's a husband and wife team, and they're brilliant, and I love their choice of projects. They're right up my street. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And they did the video had this fabulous, they did a Charlie Brown skit at the start, which just, I love Charlie Brown. So thoroughly enjoyed that. So that's Melanie and Michael from Uplift Stitches. I would imagine lots and lots of you will already have found them and been following them. The next person I have on my list is Sarah, Stitchy Bug. Welcome to the Brit Pack, Sarah. She is a British Flosstuber who has just released her first Flosstube, which is Whip Parade. She's got some really, really fab charts, again, to my kind of style and taste. And she's really entertaining to watch as well. She's got my slightly kind of irreverent sense of humour. and she just kind of chats away as if you're in the room with her. So welcome, Sarah. I hope you really enjoy being here. She's kind of, like I said, you know, after great demand, she's obviously had people putting pressure on her to film. But I hope she enjoys it now that she's done it, that she's kind of all in. Next person I want to mention is just in passing, because I mentioned the word earlier. It's Christmas is looming. That's us in November. It's not so desperately far away. And this is a Flosstube I kind of stumbled across, although I used to actually watch her on TikTok during the pandemic, when I had that little kind of brief I want to watch TikTok. I don't anymore, but it's Jackie from Atom Heart Cross Stitch, and she has just released a video where she talks you through her stitchy spot. And I just thought it might be worth mentioning, because she talks about the equipment that she uses, what she likes, how she sets it up and all that kind of thing. Just in case any of you were looking for some ideas for Christmas presents for yourself, whether to treat yourself or to maybe mention to loved ones. It might just spark some ideas. So it was just completely in passing. It's not that I've seen something stitchy I wanted to tell you about. I mean, it's something stitchy, but not a piece of stitching. It's all about the equipment and the accessories. So yeah, might be worth a look if you're looking to maybe change up your stitchy spot and you know, have different equipment, whatever. Next one I've got is Laura, from Laura's Craft Room. Again, as always, I will link everybody down below. She's just released her first floss tube, and can I, with the greatest respect, suggest that you run, don't walk, to go and have a watch of it. It's brilliant. She's lovely. She's warm and natural, and she did a fantastic job of her first floss tube, and her stitches are just wonderful. She's got such a varied selection of pieces that she shows us. There's all sorts of, there's modern folks, there's long dogs, there's just something for everybody. She's a girl after my own heart with quite an eclectic taste and beautiful stitching. And her first floss tube is wonderful. So I like I say, run, don't walk. And speaking of running, just a little shout out at the end. Andrew, the runner stitcher. As I said, I'm filming this on Saturday evening. No idea when it'll upload. The last one said was 73 hours. But just in case a miracle happens, Andrew is running the New York Marathon tomorrow. Good luck. I hope you enjoy every single step. You've worked really, really hard for it. And I said to him that if he listens really hard, there'll be a breeze blowing behind him. And in that breeze, there will be the voice of thousands of stitchers cheering him on and rooting for him, because he has united the stitchy community with his whip into shape challenge in such an amazing way. And I really, really want him to enjoy this. Now, I didn't do the whip into shape. I can't even say it. The whip into shape challenge, because it would have been concentrating on one piece, and you know me, I flitter around with different whips and new starts, and you know, I'm a bit of a tart, a bit of a hussy when it comes to my projects. But I've now identified one of those Joan Elliott actually, which I would commit to if he chose to do this again. Whether he will or not, I don't know. But I did tease him that, you know, he's going to be our new floss fitness trainer. Forget jazzercise, aerobics, calisthenics, Pilates. We're going to have floss fitness, and Andrew is going to be our fantastic trainer. So just wanted to give him a shout out because he's a legend, and I hope that tomorrow is an absolute epic day for him. So that is my very quick run through of people who razzle my berries. So let's get to our Scottish word of the day, and it's a word of the day, but I'm going to give you some extra little bits on top of it. So last night was Halloween, and I'm sure lots of you had little people who were off trick-or-treating, or maybe had people coming knocking on your door saying trick or treat. But here in Scotland, traditionally, we don't go trick-or-treating, we go guising. And that's what it was always when I was a child, it was always guising. What's your costume to go guising in? And it's very much a Scottish word. I believe there's possibly some kind of Irish part to it as well. You know, it's kind of Celtic origin. I can't speak for what they use in Ireland, but certainly as a kid growing up in Scotland, you went guising. And the word, I think, goes back to kind of pagan times, from like Samhain, where children and adults, but children would go out on the 31st of October, on Samhain night, when the veil between real life and the, I can't think of the word, not the afterlife, but the shadow universe, shall we say, where all these spirits live, the spirit world. That's more like it. The veil between our world and the spirit world was at its thinnest. And children would go out in disguise. They would be guising because they were in disguise. At the origin of the word, the root of the word is from disguise, and you would go guising because they were safe to go out dressed as kind of like a malicious little spirit, a ghost or a goblin or a ghoulie or a witch, because they were in disguise and they could walk amongst the spirits, those ghosts and ghouls and that kind of thing, in disguise and not be recognised as mortals. So they were safe on that night of the year when the spirits crossed into our world. And I've heard of people saying that guising is, it's been related to like penny for the guy, which is not a Scottish thing that started. Penny for the guy, for those of you who aren't familiar with British history, is for Guy Fawkes, who plotted to blow up Parliament, and was executed and burned at a stake. So on the 5th of November every year is bonfire night, and a effigy of Guy Fawkes is put on top of the bonfire. And there's fireworks and all that. And actually in our town it was here tonight. That's one of the reasons I waited until later to record this, in case there was any fireworks, because it was an organised display in town. So in, a few decades ago, you'd get like the 50s, 60s, that kind of thing. You'd get kids, even earlier than that, who would make up their effigy of Guy to put on top of the bonfire, and they would go around the streets with their made up Guy in a wheelbarrow and a penny for a guy. And some people say, oh, that's where guising comes from, because Halloween happens to be just before bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night, and it's not that at all. Guising comes from disguise, and it's one of those ancient, I can't think of the word. Words are hard. Tradition, and it's an ancient tradition which crossed the pond, as things tend to do, and became trick-or-treating, and has now come back to the UK as trick-or-treating, and it's not in the original spirit in which it was. Going guising, you would go to houses, and where people say trick-or-treat now, then you had to do a trick. You weren't just trick-or-treat, here's my basket, put something in it. You had to earn your treat, be it by telling jokes, singing a song, any kind of little entertainment. You had to go into somebody's house and you had to entertain them, and you had to earn your treat. And the gift that they gave you traditionally, it would have been fruit or nuts, was a token to ward off evil as you walked around amongst the spirits. So it was like a talisman that you were given as a reward for entertaining people. So that's kind of the deeper background to what is now trick-or-treating in all sorts of places all over the world. In Scotland it originated as guising, and that's still the proper word for it here, is guising. Like I say, it's more than just going in and knocking on somebody's door and expecting sweets. And it's funny, you know, that, like I say, back in the day, I mean, like I say, this is something that they think goes back to pagan times. You know, there's references to guising in like the 13th century, and this, you know, it's not a new thing. And this tradition of giving fruit or nuts. When I was little, you would get a handful of monkey nuts. You'd get some sweeties in there as well, but you'd get a big handful of monkey nuts, and quite often an apple. There was a lady in the village that I grew up in who would do toffee apples. So hers was always one of the first houses you went to, so that she didn't run out, because she made a really good toffee apple. But very, you know, traditional. So that's guising. It's a Scottish word, and it comes from disguising yourself so you can walk amongst monsters. But with that in mind, I thought I would mention some other little Scottish Halloween Samhain traditions. And one of them, which again has crossed the pond and come back in a different form, it used to be turnip lanterns, neep lanterns. Pumpkins were not something that are, you know, endemic to the UK. They're not something that that grew back in pagan times or whenever it was. They're a more recent introduction. So it would be turnips, and you would carve a turnip into a lantern based on a face, because it was kind of face shaped and a little smaller. I remember turnip carving, neep carving as a child, and it's horrendous. It's one of those, actually, pumpkins are an upgrade. Pumpkins are reasonably easy to carve. Neeps are like stones. They're rock solid. If you want to hollow one out and then carve into it, you need a really sharp knife and really big muscles. That's a lot of effort to do that. But traditionally in Scotland, you would have neep lanterns on your doorsteps and carrying them around with you. Obviously, even, you know, long before torches, that kind of thing, you would have a neep lantern with you to guide your way as you were guising. So that's one tradition, which, as I say, it's crossed the pond and come back as a pumpkin. So it recognises the origins, but it's just changed slightly. And then there was a couple of food related ones, which I remembered. We would have a Halloween party in our village hall and play all these different games. And one of them was treacle scones, which is now again evolved into donuts, where there would be scones soaked in treacle and they'd be hung on string. You'd have a length of string going across, and then these, and you had to try and eat them with your hands behind your back, covered in treacle. So you can imagine the mess that you got into. But that's kind of now evolved into donuts hanging on strings to eat with your hands behind your back. It's evolved into kind of a much more worldwide activity now, but it was originally something Scottish in origin. And another one, which again is specific to Scotland, I don't know if it's rolled out further now. Obviously my experience is Scotland. I've lived in other countries. I've lived in England, I've lived in Germany, I've spent a fair bit of time in the Netherlands, but I haven't come across it in any of those places. And that's duking for apples, where you'd have a bowl of water, like a washing up bowl type thing, or a bucket full of water with apples floating around in it, and you had to get the apples out, again with your hands behind your back. So you had to put your head in and try and bite the apples, which of course would spin and disappear away from you. There was a version you could do where you would put a fork in your mouth and you would try and stab them. Of course they would just sink below the water. It was a fight, but certainly the village Halloween parties I went to, it was duking for apples, where you had to put your head in. So you would end up completely soaked and covered in treacle by the end of it. You know, if you'd got like face paint on for your costume or that. Although this is back in the days of those old scratchy plastic masks that used to cut you. So you take that off to do your duking. But yeah, that's a very traditional Scottish Halloween activity, is duking for apples. And they think that the origins of that comes from duking or ducking the heads of women suspected of being witches to prove their innocence. That it's kind of, it's one of those traditions that starts off a little bit malevolent, like ring a roses, that kind of thing. There's a deeper, darker layer to it, and that this is possibly where it's come from. Again, it's Samhain, it's Halloween, the veil between the worlds, evil can cross over, and witches are, you know, it's the witching night. So possibly that's where that tradition came from. But I just thought I would share that with you because I kind of knew about these things, but I read up about them more so I could tell you from an informed place rather than just my own kind of experiences, which some of them have been quite a few years ago now. But yeah, I just thought that the Scottish history of Halloween is ancient. It's centuries old, and it has morphed and changed over those centuries. And in some places it's jumped the ocean and changed and been sent back in a different way, which I think is sad, because it's nice to respect those long held traditions and the reasons behind them. But it still happens in its own way, and I found it fascinating and just wanted to share with you. And as I said, it brought back memories of my old childhood, and yeah, those scratchy masks. I remember one of my favourite costumes was as a black cat, you know, with the thick tights and the leotard and the fur tail that my mum had made for me, sewn onto the back of a leotard, and then one of those masks that, you know, was rock solid, would kind of cut into you. But happy memories. Those were in the days where you could go around every house, and complete safety. I grew up in a village where everybody knew everybody, and you could knock on every door and feel perfectly safe. And it's a shame that it's not like that anymore. But things change. But guising will always remain. So yeah, so that's all I've got for you today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I hope you've maybe learned something. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed your time here with me. I know I always enjoy my time here with you. My plan is to come back again the middle of the month, with just an update of where I'm at, what I'm doing, in a couple of weeks. Not sure when it'll be yet. Got things going on this month. Hayley's really excited. One of her friends that she made when she was working in Epcot is coming to stay, which will be lovely to have her here. So great excitement over that. Great plans of things that they're going to do. But yeah, sometime around the middle of the month, that's kind of around when she's going to be here. So sometime around the middle of the month, I will come back and say hello and show you what I've been stitching on for the first half of November, which will be thistly, I would have thought, in theme. So I shall go and leave you now in peace and quiet. As I said, this is Sunday evening. It's probably the back of 9 p.m. now. No idea when this is going to upload. You might see it on Tuesday. Who knows? I'm going to hope for Monday. Anything ahead of Monday will be an absolute bonus and a complete surprise. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Great excitement. So until then, look after yourself and those that you love, and make sure that they look after you too, because you deserve that. Focus on time for yourself. Invest in yourself. It's that old adage about, you know, air stewardesses that they tell you to put the oxygen mask on you first before you put it on somebody else. Because you can't help somebody else if you're running on empty yourself. So invest in yourself and do things that make you happy and make your heart feel good and warm and cozy and loved, because you are. So I shall leave you with that. And yeah, let's catch up in a couple of weeks. If you've enjoyed anything I've had to say today, like I say, hit the like, drop me a comment. I love hearing from you. Ring the bell if you feel like it, if you're feeling brave. It helps me grow my channel and make new friends. And it's all about me, because I want to make new friends, because you are such an awesome bunch out there. But until the next time, take really good care of you, and I'll see you soon.